fight and you may die. Run and you'll live. At least a while. And dying in your bed many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, we are live. This is a live broadcast streaming right into you, streaming right to you. My name is Jim. My brother, the guy over there, that's my brother.
Namaste.
He is my brother John Wick, the lawyer, and I am Jim, the teacher. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have
James, are you done playing with the computer?
Not at all. I do want to point out
God.
that you should subscribe and like our channel. You should make sure you tell your friends about us. We are pushing back against the left as much as we can, but we need your help. We need you to help drive the algorithm. Let's really tick off the left. Let's really tick off Mark Zuckerberg and all the other leftists down in Google and all the other commie mommy loving places. Let's go and show them that we're not going to take it anymore by sharing this message, because that's the only way we're going to get our message out. We can't depend on the media. We can't depend on our elected leaders. We can't depend on people doing the right thing unless we are getting the message out and doing the right thing on our end. So, having said that, once again, we're going to have a broad spectrum of things we're going to be talking about tonight. Tonight, going off first with me is going to be the updates. As usual, I'm going to be talking about that. Then my brother, John Wick, the lawyer, will be diving into Jen Psucki and her pasty face, sexist pig attitude. Well, I can't wait to hear about that, brother. Then I will be doing China and the danger zone. And, of course, Pugnology.
Oh, my God.
Pugnology Part 1 from John, who is apparently very frustrated tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you can notice. There's certainly a level of frustration with him tonight. He's very, very picky. Very picky. So those of you out there, I can't wait to hear from you. Make sure you drop us a line. So let's start off with actually, I'm going to start off with this piece of little bit of information so we can get the sleepy time out of the way. We have good old guy sleeping in the White House, sleeping right now across from the Israeli Prime Minister. He's out. I don't care what they say. There is no way that you can honestly defend that posture. He is napping. He is completely napping, and it is pathetic. It is absolutely pathetic. This is why the people out there.
Don't wake him up. Maybe 4 years from now, we could just replace him.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't wake him up.
So we have good old, the guy who sleeps in the White House, literally sleeping in the White House in front of us, but he's usually sleeping next to the woman that he thinks is his sister. So we have that little bit of information. I thought I'd share that with everybody. We, of course, have This Is Bad. Russian cosmonaut finds tiny cracks in International Space Station. We went out there into space to discuss this little piece of information. It is interesting, but this is a decades-old space station. It does have a lot of wear and tear. They do move it around a bit, and of course, the piece that they're talking about, the piece of the space shuttle that has cracks in it, the module, was made. Johnny, you want to guess where it was made? Which country made it?
It can't be China, because that would be we'd be hearing this like a week later. That's Brother Joseph's greatest joke. When they one of his greatest jokes, when they put the probe on the moon, the Chinese were the only people surprised that it stopped working after 10 days. because all their crap stops working after 10 days. So can't be the Chinese there, brother. Can't
Nope,
be the Chinese.
it's actually a Russian module. The
Ah,
Russians
see,
made it,
the
and
Russians. Well, at least it
yeah, we
lasted
bought
then.
it.
See,
Yeah. I mean, they did make mirror, so there's that little bit of information. We then have this. We're gonna slide into Afghanistan right now. We're gonna be discussing this. I have a couple. I have to dig the other one up, but I want to make sure you get a chance to listen and watch. Actually, not listen, but just watch, brother. Do you notice anything in the background? Do those look familiar? Those vehicles right there?
remember, I have a tiny, tiny little computer. It's like this big.
Yeah.
And my
Well,
eyes can't really see. If you want to
that's
quit,
a Black Hawk. That's a Black Hawk
oh
helicopter
boy,
that's flying a white Taliban flag. Of course, we have the weapons that were picked up by
give it to the
the
Taliban.
given to the
Next time some
Taliban.
jackass complains about too many guns in America, remember, we want our machine guns. We want our
Right,
machine guns and grenade launchers and Black Hawk helicopters. Okay.
right. I agree, brother. There is where is it? Here it is. This piece I want to pull up. I'm going to drop this into the mix so because it needs to be in there. Watch this. Look at all those guns, brother.
68,000 machine guns. Where's our saw? How come we don't get a saw? Every house should have its own saw.
Don't forget the handguns, brother. Go pick up your 9mm.
Unbelievable.
The reason why I put this up here is because you had this discussion last week about the AK and the M16 AK or the M4. Regardless of you talked about that last week. Do you remember?
Yes, I do.
The debate over which one was the better weapon systems. Well, the Taliban have made their choice.
They made their choice.
Yes, it is the M4, and then if we go down, maybe it's up top. Well, we're not going to watch it now, but then we have the Taliban preventing the departure of 6 planes filled with Americans, according to Mike McCall.
They're not hostages, James. They're not. You're not allowed to call them hostages. If you say hostages, we're going to get banned on Facebook again. Can't call them.
They're hostages, brother.
James, the election was not stolen except by the Russians. The Russians stole the election, and they're not hostages, and they're not left behind. Whatever you do, don't say they're left behind.
Well, the bloody hands Biden, he seems to have. He's going to end up cutting a deal with these Taliban to recognize them as the governing institution of Afghanistan in order for these 6 planes to get off the ground. Instead of sending in U.S. Special Forces, or heaven forbid that we actually have stayed there or exited the proper way. And I just want to take a little side note here. I'm going to be talking more about this in the danger zone, but I do want to point out that the importance of any type of military movement is you never give up your airfield until you don't need it anymore. So especially when you're in a landlocked country, this individual who claims he's the president can't even stay awake during a meeting. But having said that, he's also stuck with the idea that his plan was just to get the troops out by September 11th. That was his only driving feature. He didn't care about how it worked. He didn't care about what was done. His single sole motivation was the photo op of September 11th, and he's going to be at the 3 different places this Saturday. He's going to be in Shanksville. He's going to be in Ground Zero, and he's going to be at the Pentagon. He plans on being all 3 just so he can get these photo shots. And I guarantee you, brother, by then the media will have forgotten all of this and will be once again sucking up to Biden.
They're doing it already, James. It's really sad to see. Unless you go to like UK Daily Mail, where you can actually see what's going on in Afghanistan, where they shot the poor female police officer in the face. They just came in, they killed the Taliban, killed her, and the various scenes where they're going house to house hunting Americans.
Right.
And you don't see any of the news because it's the fake press. It's the whole purpose. It's propaganda press, and it's despicable. These people are creeps. They should not be referred to the news. We should not call them the news because they're not the news.
No, they're propaganda pieces. That's what they are. They're propaganda mouthpieces. That's what they are.
Lollipop lickers. Remember, we used to call them the lollipop lickers.
Lollipop lickers. They are completely bought and paid for by the left and John, by China.
Big corporations.
Yeah. So I think you can go to Just the News. They do a fairly decent job, but they're not considered mainstream media. So let's go on to the USDA, John. The USDA announces racial preferences and new climate smart agricultural funding. So that means all you farmers out there who are none of these African American, American Indian, Alaskan Natives, Asians, Hispanics, Pacific Islanders. Now, it's not exclusively that group. They will let it to other groups, but they have not decided which groups those are. Those will be preferential treatment. So we now have what is, I guess, the affirmative action of the USDA. So they will be getting the special loans. They'll be first come, always served group that they'll be getting. So you can expect this to be the norm from now on, John, for until we Trump comes back and beats these clowns. That's going to be the norm. And I want to point out that they're spending so much time on this that they seem to have forgotten that there's still a border crisis, and the border patrol scrambles to fill a gap. Now, so there's this gap that was left open. It just wasn't done. It was a small gap, so you can see it here in the background. The border patrol just got together whatever they could. The scraps in the local area. They built themselves a bit of a partition there, just something to slow the illegals from coming over the wall. So that is that. But John, they spent the O'Biden. I call me O'Biden. The O'Biden administration has done everything it can to open up the borders, and we're going to get into it with actually. I'm going to talk about it right now. The piece I told you about earlier about Ken Paxton. Ken Paxton, that was from CPAC, which goes way back in April, but it wasn't widely reported in. And what was missing in the news, what you didn't hear, what Ken Paxton said. Who's Ken Paxton? He's the AG for the Attorney General for the state of Texas. He's the guy who tried to get the Supreme Court to review this the election by demanding that Texas was the people of Texas were not getting a fair shake because of the illegal model going on in places like Pennsylvania and other states that were having illegal having people vote who shouldn't have been voting, so and changing the process illegally. So that's who Ken Paxton is. Ken Paxton said in the CPAC interview, he said, quite frankly, that the Obama administration is purposely allowing illegal immigrants into our country and sending them out specifically to red states. They determined that they're doing it because the red states are the ones that are standing up to him, and he is going to attack the red states. Biden's going to attack the red states by sending in people with these illegal immigrants, which is going to cause increased demand on funding for different programs. Also, they're not screening any of the people within any of the illegal immigrants coming in. They're not checking them for COVID. They're not seeing if they're criminals. So they're dropping them in red states purposely to drive the red states to be blue and driving them to be in a financial crisis. Now, I bring this up because obviously we have this border discussion here with this piece, and this is just another example of the Biden administration completely ignoring the border and just allowing it to be an open border. They've openly said it's an open border. They've openly allowed it. They're not letting anybody in to see what's going on inside these detention camps. They're expanding them. They're taking over hotels. They're putting the illegals on buses and shipping them throughout the country. And there's no check on this, and there's no reporting on this. There's nothing going on about it. And the point I bring this up is because if you notice on this story right here, which we see the U.S. Border, Customs seizes almost 40,000 fake products, designer products that are made in China. Now they have all the resources to do this, to come and get and make sure we don't get the fake watches and the fake shoes and the fake Gucci, whatever it may be. All that fake nonsense and the fake Jordans. They can put the resources out to stop that, but they can't put the resources out to stop the COVID, the COVID-riddled illegal immigrants that they're shipping throughout our country to take down our red states. So if you look at this model, this is no longer a model that's, this is just, he's not a goofy Biden. He's not goofy. He's not stupid.
He's never been goofy. He's always been a mendacious creep.
This is a direct assault on the red states. This is their model. They don't care about you or me. If if our beliefs are conservative, if our beliefs are Republican, if we think that Trump is the man, they don't care about what we think. They are just going to continue to attack us. They're just going to continue to allow the illegal immigrants to flood into our country. And, John, I think it's a key point. If I don't know about you, but I have to be vaccinated or I have to be tested twice a week, in order to work. And there's a lot of people out there that I know that have to be vaccinated, that have to, get the shot. And, it's if you don't, and if we don't do it, we get shamed by our so-called friends on the left. They shame us and they attack us for not wanting to get a vaccine. Meanwhile, we got Biden allowing anybody to come in who wants to, not caring about their vaccination. No one's getting vaccinated on the border. They're not
how come you don't make it a rule to run over the U.S. border? You have to be vaccinated first, right?
Right. So
they don't have to show any ID or any card, right?
Right.
But,
no ID, no card.
Right. But you have to show, not to vote, but you have to show a vaccination card when you just want to travel around the country.
Exactly. If I go, John, in New York City, in order to go into a restaurant, you have to have a vaccination.
Now, if you're an illegal alien, though, you just run over. What do you say? Say, listen, I'm an illegal alien. Are you kidding me?
Right.
You can't say that to me.
Right.
How dare you?
How dare you? So I think I'm at my time limit. I do want to point out that this is the mentality that we're fighting against. Once again, like, subscribe, share our videos. Check out our channel on YouTube. It's Ballistic Patriot Channel. You can check us out there. Before my brother starts, I just want to remind you, like and share this with your friends. Talk to them about it. Let them know how much what kind of information you're getting here. We're shooting straight here. We are Ballistic Patriot. Now, brother, it is going on to you, and we are going to hear about that pasty-faced
transphobe Jen Psucki.
Yeah, transphobe Jen Psucki. So you needed the video for that, correct?
Yeah.
Let me pull that up. I forgot to mention, McConnell says there will be no impeachment.
Ah.
Were you surprised, John? Were you surprised when I told you that? No, right? All right, here is Psucki.
The president believes their right should be.
Teaches abortion is morally wrong.
No. He believes that it's a woman's right, it's a woman's body, and it's her choice.
Why does the president, who does he believe then should look out for the unborn child?
He believes that it's up to a woman to make those decisions, and up to a woman to make those decisions with her doctor. I know you've never faced those choices, nor have you ever been pregnant, but for women out there who have faced those choices, this is an incredibly difficult thing. The president believes their right should be respected. Go ahead. I think we got to move on.
That was the one you wanted?
How dare she? That
Yes.
Transphobe, man-hating, trans-shaming, jerk, creep, fake feminist. She's as much a feminist as Joe Biden is a Catholic. Of course, what happened this week was that Texas has a brilliant law on the books where they stop all. It's the heartbeat law where they stop all abortion after 6 weeks when you can hear a heartbeat. And if you kill a baby or you abort a baby, then you can go after them privately. So it empowers private citizens to sue them in court. So it's really kind of like an end run around the whole. You need a state actor. You need to just the way Roe versus Wade was an end run around the Constitution. I had this old law professor who stupidly said he was this mouse. He was this moron teaching constitutional history. Never knew anything about constitutional history. And there's nowhere in the Constitution to say you have a right to kill a baby. But he what the liberals do when they teach you this is they say, oh, you have a little bit of right here of privacy, and then you have a little bit of right here of against birth control. And you put it together, and what it is they make a P. It's privacy for birth control. Well, just like Roe versus Wade was an end run around the Constitution, Texas came up with a brilliant idea to do another end run around the Constitution, to be declared unconstitutional. Of course, you have to be, for the first 10 amendments, they apply to Congress. They specifically say Congress, which means the U.S., which means the government or some nature of the government. And one of the requirements is you have to be a state actor. So this is an end run around the end run of the Supreme Court. Now, interestingly enough, in a 5-4 decision, they did not decide on the constitutionality of the law. All they did was say, well, it's not ripe yet. Just like creepy. There's got to be something. Somebody's got something on this guy, John Roberts. He was the one vote against it. Saying that it should have been declared unconstitutional before even there's been a case brought. So what happened in Texas is they haven't even brought a case yet. This hasn't been put in place for one day so that somebody could bring a case. This was a preemptive strike to stop it. And here is Mr. We can't interfere in the 2020 elections because it's not ripe yet, saying that this case is completely ripe and it should be thrown out. Somebody I want to see his emails. He can sue us for slander. Let's go. I want to see your emails. I want to see your phone. Somebody's got some dirt on you. You're doing something, because here he is in the so-called conservative with the three liberals in this 5-4 decision. Again, it's not even been decided yet. Now it's going to go on, and somebody's going to have to either sue after they kill a baby, or now that it's in effect, maybe they can actually have a quote case for ripeness. But anyway, here is this transphobe. How dare she say to any man, this fake feminist. And like I said, she's as much a feminist as Joe Biden is a Catholic. Now, one of these days we have to do a little thing on Sojourn Truth and the early feminists and what the real feminists were really like. Sojourn Truth was literally born a slave, and she was emancipated because of the New York law change. But she had to run away, and she was also sued. She had to leave her children behind. She actually sued. Her children were sold off. She's a black woman, and she was sold off. Her children were sold off, and she had to sue to get her child back because they were illegally sold. Anyway, she was a big Christian, had a big Christian conversion, and she went around spoke very eloquently with a Dutch accent, and the early feminist movement, much like the earliest anti-slave movement, this is before the Civil War, was Christian based, and so all the feminists were Christian based, and the idea was, from the famous scene in John where one of the things is where Jesus stops the stoning of women, right? So the early feminists were all surprisingly against abortion. Why are they against abortion? Of course they're against abortion, because abortion, half the people that it kills is are girls. So how can you be for women if you're for the murdering of little girl babies? Now it's even worse because with sex selection today in places like China and stuff, and you got to remember, American abortion is the worst in the world, along with North Korea and China. Okay, no place else. The rest of the so-called industrialized world have very have restrictive forms of abortion. Only in America can you kill babies in China and North Korea after even all the way even after as they're coming out, right? So the American abortion, it's always been this aberration. It's been this evil aberration. And in China, though, they're now doing selective abortions. So of course, who do they kill the most when they get the chance? Girls. And I'm sure if you could actually chart it, you'd see a similar thing happening in here. So if you really were a feminist, you really were a Catholic, of course, you'd be all on board for this. You'd be saying, yeah, you know what? It's wrong to kill babies, especially after you hear a heartbeat, right? And so, but this really outs her. What a transphobe. She says to this Ducey guy that he can't have a baby. How dare she say to any man that you can't have a baby? Like, I can't know what it's like to have my ankle swell and my breast enlarge and to feel nausea and vomit and to have, the cravings for chocolate and all the other things that went through, that when I had the 9 children that I have, like, I didn't go through that, at least sympathetically, right? And I don't know what it's like to have to be split in half as a foreign entity bursts from me, like in the movie Alien. I can't watch Alien. I don't know what it's like to have a baby born. Now, of course, this is really a comeuppance of in one sense, because the feminist movement was destroyed and taken over by a supremacy movement. It's like we're all equal except that women do everything better. Okay. And it was an evil that went out of control. Anything that's not focused on God's one of our principles always goes bad. This and so one way this was during the college. And you look at college today, 2/3 of college is filled with women now, and not men. Mainly because in the government schools you have women teachers abusing the little boys, not allowing them to be boys, putting them on medication so that they grow up and shoot people like they did in Sandy Hook. So the morons in Sandy Hook can blame everybody else like us in other states for the fact that one of their kids went off the rails. When here we are sitting in other states, which is just minding our own business for their own guts, right? So part of that is the government schools and the evil of that, but the bigger problem is the supremacy movement. So it's in the colleges, and so they say, okay, well, we have women's sports should be equal to men's sports. Well, really, because it's very important for young girls to be exercising. Yeah, that's good, that's important. But what's more important? Men need the physical exercise. They have to bash their heads against things, because if they're not doing that, they're doing horrible things. Okay, so they need the not everything is the same. Sometimes you have more needs than other needs, and the really football and all the men's sports, it's very important because it keeps these potentially dangerous monsters from being potentially dangerous monsters and teaches them the lessons of life. So now you have football programs and stuff like that, but as they said in Animal House, all pigs are equal, but some pigs are more equal. And so oh boy, you're gonna hear that one. but not referencing girls, because everybody knows girls are better. So this is a really comeuppance for this. Now, so our position. I know you have a different position against trans, the trans community, but I'm all for my brothers/sisters who LGBTQ pretty darn quick, whatever they want to call. I'll just call them LGBTQ pretty darn quick because I can't keep up with all the terminology. But I have all the sympathy for my brothers/sisters, because listen, where they are now is they just want to be on the winning side. Women have won. This idea that we're a male patriarchy is complete nonsense. Now, if you listen to Jordan Peterson, he said, "Oh, it's just like the lobsters. Well, it's just like we're 3/4 of a billion years ago. The lobsters, we have the same, we're evolved, and we have the exact same, nervous system. And the male lobsters, they would fight over a particular turf, and the one turf would determine what's the ranking order, and so you had a hierarchy, and we know this, and because this is what we test serotonin and various chemicals on, and it's the same system that the lobsters have as we have. So there is a male hierarchy, but there's also a female hierarchy, and nobody really knows which hierarchy is really in charge, the male or the female. Now we all know it's the female hierarchy that's in charge, right? Listen, 90% of alimony goes to women, 80% of custody go to women. 100% of death on the job, or 99.9% of death on the job is men. If there's 152 people killed on the job, 150 of them are men. The hierarchy in charge is the female hierarchy. And the myth that the 80% disparity in income is complete nonsense. If that was the case, then all the evil capitalists, what they would do is just hire all women, because automatically they're getting a cut of 80% in the salaries. So it's stupid nonsense from the left, and it's never rational, and it's never never held accountable. Kind of like women in general, right?
John, can I just interrupt? I have something to say about what you just said.
It's your funeral. I really don't care. It's your funeral. We get on this topic.
So
I don't care. Of course, like I said, I'm out. I'm done. I have 7 daughters. I can say anything I want. Right?
God
7.
is in heaven. He says to the men, he says, all the men who are the head of the household stand in this line, and all the men who have women as the household, head of the household, stand in that line. So he's got 2 lines. And the one with the women in the head of the household goes for miles. And the one with men in the head of the household, there's only one guy. And God is like, what's going on here? I made you men to be the head of the house, to be the head, not the tail. Why? I don't get it. I just don't understand why so many of you are still over here. And I have one man who apparently is doing it right because he's the head of his household. So he goes over to the one guy. He says, son, I need you to tell them and me why, what brought you to stand in this line? How did you get here? And the guy says, I don't know, God. My wife told me to stand here.
You did good on that joke. That was good, brother.
Getting to your point.
So the Ballistic Patriot has established firmly that the hierarchy in charge is the women, okay? And let me finish on that. So Jordan Peterson would say, and the female hierarchy uses the male hierarchy to self-select for they kind of outsource the evolutionary like to picking on how to pick the most fit male lobster. Now, eventually, somebody's going to laugh. 1,000 years from now, if the internet is still alive, they're going to be laughing that we say all this stuff. But whatever. So when she makes this comment, this transphobe Jen Psucki, I have to say, if she was a true feminist, she would cancel herself out, and that's what we demand. We demand she does seppuku on the air, because she does not know that any man can be just a good baby baby farm and Handmaid's Tale as any natural biological woman. How dare she
Ballistic
insult
Patriots
our brothers / sisters? What?
Official position of Ballistic Patriot is that she cancel herself from her job and surrender her position because she's clearly a transphobe. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Now, as we all know, when men dress up as women and all the rest of it, this just proves the age-old universal truth. And I'm gonna get to it, right? So for all our brothers / sisters who want to go out there, they should be out there with their pregnant bellies, at the like a mob, demanding her to with their little pink hats on. Demanding she resign from all this and enjoying the fruits of being busted in half. I'm having a baby expect out of them, and I'm sure they will be some men in the future who go doing that, proving the universal truth of all time that men do everything better, even being women than women.
So there's
I know from Jim Acosta, who is the biggest bitch on the planet.
I don't think I can follow that up. I will say this. I do want to throw in on if you're done. I don't know if you're done.
Go ahead, brother.
I do want to point out, I've heard a lot of talk about, it's my body, my choice. The the pushback from the traditional pushback from the left is, as we heard with Jen Psucki, that it's, woman's body, they should be able the ones to make the decision. But I want to point out that when they've gone to the point where they're bringing life into this world and the baby is conceived, that is no longer just their body. Now there's a new body in play. That is the body of the baby, and the baby has rights and should be defended. We've established this. This is often why you will see, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, brother, court cases in which a pregnant woman, when a murder trial has been brought up and there's a pregnant
DUI
woman,
or something like that, or you
right?
beat a woman and it happens to be pregnant, there's
Yep.
another charge.
Yeah, there's an additional charge
Right.
that's directed at the baby.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, we established, this is all well established, and I hear, and I also want to throw out there too, in modern day, this is, first of all, when Roe v. Wade came out, it was back in the 70s. Today, modern medicine has advanced to the stage whereas if you are practicing unsafe sex, and there's this thing going around on Facebook about, I stand for this woman who got this and had this happen and that happen. All those can be stopped with the pill that's called Plan B. So if you are truly not interested in getting not having this baby, that's what the Plan B, it prevents the conception from happening. So my understanding of it is, so
for humans though, and we shouldn't be doing that either. But
maybe
next week or something, maybe we can get deeper into the pregnant thing. But
but there's plenty of options, and I just want to make the point that it's not your body anymore. It's not just your body. You are having a baby. You made that decision.
Yeah, who's the most vulnerable person in this? It's the baby. Who doesn't get to speak? It's the baby.
Right.
What we should, because we've done this before too, going through the statistics about how this is really not, this issue shows, they're going to go on it because they think they can gin up their base and get a lot of money from the white commie.
Right. That's really what it comes down to, is the money.
But really though, this is an issue that if we had a real Republican Party, they would be hammering the crap out of this because of the way they are eliminating this genocidal, eugenic, nutjob, Nazi socialists, which is what they are, eugenicizing the black community. If you were really pro Black Lives Matter, like we used to say, Black Baby Lives Matter even more, because they're not going to be any more Black Lives Matter because the demographics are going right down. And that's what their whole goal has always been. That's what Hillary Clinton and all the creeps on the left have always been. They're happy to abort away the black community. They'll just get new ones in, as they let them in at the border.
Yep. And to be clear, we're not talking. I'm not talking about
articulate and uppity.
I'm not talking about like rape or incest. I'm talking about when you've made that conscious decision to have sex, you're also taking a risk of you're going to have a baby. There's
a guy I saw that testified when he was his father raped his mother, and it's one of the most moving things you can ever watch. Listen to. I think I listened to it, and he said, every day of his life he is determined to undo that evil by being the best father and parent he can. Whether it's an incest or rape, that doesn't mean that baby isn't innocent. And so I used to say, I used to be, when we were young, we'll get into more last year. When we were young, we're all young men. You're all like, oh yeah, we're all for abortion. Just like Jeffrey Toobin is. The reason why is because his mistress. This is why it's hysterical that this fake legal expert Jeffrey Toobin, from doing. Wait, you can see both my hands, so I'm not doing it. who apparently got his mistress right. Well, you did either, right? I see your hands, brother. Right. So this idiot gets one of his many mistresses pregnant, and then tries to browbeat her into an abortion, right? And she won't do it, and he's legal. He's talking about abortions. The press, this fake press is so compromised and so corrupt. We should do it next, but we're way past our time because it's like 40 minutes.
All right, so now it's time to go into the danger zone. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to be talking about China and the danger zone. I can't let that play any longer because YouTube will kick it out because kick out the whole show because of copyright issues. But we're entering the danger zone of China. So we've established, we know that China met with the Taliban a couple days before Kabul fell. We understand that the Chinese are working with the Pakistanis and trying to become with the Belt and Road Initiative. What we're looking at, and I want to make it clear that we're going to be talking about this predictive software that's out there. That here at Ballistic Patriot, we beat the this predictive software by several months, and we already predicted what they came up with, and they worked very hard and spent millions of dollars. But this AI,
This
came up with,
AI right here, Ballistic Patriot AI at
yeah,
$2,000 did it.
yeah, right. We
Not
already
yours.
predicted. We already predicted that the same exact thing that they do, and of course, unlike them, they had to put qualifiers in there. They had to say, "Oh, this will happen." The event that I'm going to talk about will only happen if X, Y, and Z happens. So we want to make it clear that we know that this is going to happen in the next 2 years. And let's be clear, before Biden leaves office, we are going to see the Chinese, the CCP, make a move on Taiwan. I don't mean just flying planes over them. I mean sending in airborne troops. That's what it'll be, an airborne invasion across the strait into landing troops into Taiwan. It'll be a massive, invasion where they'll sneak in a bunch of boats, and without anybody supposedly without anybody knowing about it. But of course, with the U.S. military, we'll know about it, but no one will stop them. We won't stop them because we have Biden in office, and that's why it's going to happen, because Biden is bought and paid for. We saw that in Kabul. We saw that in Afghanistan. He is bought and paid for, but we also know that he is trying to protect Hunter and the rest of his family. So let's just dive into this. Let's talk about this. So I want to talk about this machine learning. It's from the gentleman whose name I'm going to completely mess up, but he's from the China propaganda analysis. He's a China propaganda analysis expert. His name is Weifeng Zhang. Hong. He's an expert. Grew up in China, escaped from China and made his way over here. He's a very smart guy. I don't want to knock him. I'm not trying to knock him. I'm just saying, he came up with a predictive software based off of all the information that is recorded from the propaganda arms of the Chinese government. And he recently pointed out that, hey, there's been a noticeable uptick of them talking about military stuff. And that generally means that they're going to be doing some attacking. We know that they went into India a little while ago. We know that they have been eyeing up Taiwan. Taiwan even knows that they're doing this. Here's how we know that, because Taiwan just, I think, spent $700 million on buying even more rockets to protect their shores so that they can take out these planes and take out and help protect American aircraft carriers if they ever decide to go in there. We know that this is building to a head, and that's why we're predicting that in 3 years there will be a war over Taiwan. It will be a limited stage war where if U.S. forces are engaged, it will be a defining factor, though, John. This is the scary point. China is emboldened, not because of anything that they've done, but because of what we didn't do right and what Biden didn't do right specifically. The Chinese government, it knows that Biden is weak and stupid and feckless and more than likely going to screw up. And it's all about Biden. So they know that he's going to not defend Taiwan, or at least they think it. Even no matter what his words are, they know that he's full of crap. They know he talks a lot and doesn't mean what he says. They know he's a liar. They know he's a pathological liar. They know he cannot be honest about this in international affairs because he just doesn't have the intestinal fortitude, as the OGBP would say. So, what is my point? And the point of Weifang is very simple. The world is going to be split one way or the other because China isn't just interested in, exporting communism, John. China is interested in exporting the ideology that you are a lesser human being, that the leaders are the supreme beings, and that the lesser human being is you, the ordinary person. You're a lesser human being, like the Uyghurs, like the Tibetans, like the Uyghurs, the Falun Gong, all the political prisoners. The idea that concentration camps exist in China in the last 20 years is a complete lie. Concentration camps have always existed in China since the CCP took over. They've been locking up political prisoners just like the Russians did with their gulags, just like the Russians were doing when they were communists. They've been doing it all along. This is just now they're isolating it to a particular group, not just political prisoners. Of course, they locked them up, but everybody that they're going after the Uyghurs, like a 12 million population in China. They have a third of them locked up right now, a quarter to a third locked up, John, in concentration camps. They're going to export that these camps are good for not just China, but for other countries to do. You can see this kind of totalitarianism spreading around the world. Just for a minute, John, I want you to think about who in that region of the world is the most likely to succumb to China's influence and power. Just think about the map for a second. Who do you see? What are the countries over there that are traditionally ours? Why did my camera come unplugged?
I don't know. All I see is it looks like, I don't know.
That's the Hulk. That's the
Oh.
Hulk. I have to
Why are
fix
you
that
the
in a minute.
Hulk?
It's just what it is. But you got to keep in mind, John,
Damn
that this
Chinese
the
communists.
Chinese, it probably was. But my point being, the area of the map, around the map area, that area, there's Japan, there's Philippines, there's the Vietnamese.
You want me to get the
There's-
whiteboard up, James?
There's also Australia, John.
Look,
There's also Australia.
brother, I got you right there. I got you. I got this tech thing figured out. Don't worry.
Oh boy. You're hilarious. You're hilarious, brother. You're absolutely hilarious. There we go. So we have that. Let's see if that'll work.
I'm impressed that you can do both at the same time.
So you have to keep in mind, brother, that the Chinese are controlling the narrative here. They're never going to stop doing what they're doing. A lot of what's going to happen, and Weifang is very clear about, it depends on what is going to happen with Biden. What's the U.S. going to do to China? Because they don't care what we do. They simply don't care. They're going to keep barreling on. Remember, John, just like the elites in our country, they're insulated. The CCP is insulated inside of China. The entire country can starve, but they will not. The entire country will have poisoned water to drink. They won't. The entire country will have no TV or technology to enjoy themselves. The CCP leadership will always have that. No matter what happens, they're insulated. They don't care what happens to the people, just like the elites in our country. So their exporting is already working. This exporting has already been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. So we have to be on guard that what they're exporting is now the idea that the lesser human beings should be treated like lesser human beings. They should be. If you stand up against the government, you should be locked up. That's the kind of thing they're looking to export because, John, when they take over the Belt and Road Belt and Road initiative that they have, they're indebting these countries to them. And by the indebted nature of them, these countries are now beholden to China. There's no way that they can break away from this grip. So you have to either do what the Chinese government wants you to do, or you fall apart. You're going to lose your country. That's what I have to say. That's danger zone is China, because China is on the move. It's not stopping. They look at this as another opportunity. They're going to exploit it. They're going to try to drive a wedge, and they have a wedge. The weakness of Biden. And I wouldn't be surprised, John, if Biden doesn't try to pick a fight with somebody just so he could send our troops in or some ridiculous thing like that.
Trump will kick his ass.
What's that?
Won't be Trump, because Trump will kick his ass.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. We gotta make it look like he's, even if it's Harris, it doesn't matter if it's Biden or Harris. They're both feckless and weak. She's even worse. At least she won't fall asleep during.
Whoa! We don't know if she falls asleep when she sleeps her way to the top. We don't know about that.
And right. So now you need your
Pugnology. Right. Pugnology. So the section is for Pugnology. All right. So we're gonna start a new segment here. Right. Oh, look, there they go. Pugnology. Now, actually, Pugnology has nothing to do with pugs. Oh, look how cute they are. I could just sit and watch all day. Maybe it'd be better if you want to watch it. Look at that. So cute. Oh my gosh. There's nothing to do with pugs. But while you're distracted by that, let me explain Pugnology, what I'm talking about. Well, I never liked the idea of the apologetics, the idea that you have to apologize for being for on behalf of God or being religious. I know it's not apology, but it's speaking away. It's from the Greek, blah blah blah, bullcrap. I just never liked the name. I don't like being on the defense, and I think it's a silly way of doing it. So I've always preferred the Latin, and I know this phrase, pugnando pro Dio, meaning fighting for God, or a Dio missus ad pugnandum, which is sent to fight for God. So if you're going to speak up in defense of the gospel, I prefer this way of doing it, and that's why we call this. I'm going to shorten it to Pugnology, and we're going to start a series on fighting for God. And specifically, I've been watching a lot of these silly, spoiled, immature atheists / agnostics. Now, these people, they're always playing this game with atheists and agnostics, and basically all they really are bigots towards Christianity and Judaism and God haters. If you're going to call them anything, that's what they are. But they've done a great damage to poor young people and to people out there who take this nonsense seriously. One of them is this guy named Bart Ehrman, who calls himself a scholarship, and he basically lies about what he does. He's a quote scholar. He's having and he's always talking like this. He always whining like this. He's just a whiner. And one of the things that for example, he wrote this last book. He wrote it out on I think it's I forget the name of it. Jesus didn't say this. Basically, he goes around his latest book. He goes around saying that Jesus never said he was God. Now, of course, Jesus said he was God. Literally, in Mark, when Caiaphas asked him, are you saying you're God? Jesus says, I do, and he says he is, and then Caiaphas tears his robes, right, and that's why they get him for blasphemy, right, because he's blasphemed. Now he can't say he's for God. He only says it to the apostles individually and there, because he has to keep it on the down low, of course, because they're trying to kill Jesus throughout his 3-year ministry, just for blue law violations. Meaning he goes down to the shore and he works a day, and his working is he doing just a miracle here and straighten somebody's hand out. They're trying to kill him for that. So he knows that once he says that, to in public, that they're going to whack him, right? And sure enough, that's what happens. So I call these fake scholars like this. I call them stuck on stupid, because I guarantee you they're stuck on stupid scholarship. I guarantee you, if Jesus had said, I am God, I am God, I am God, this knucklehead will be saying something like, well, we know the gospels can't be trusted. We know we know the gospel can't be trusted because if he said that, it would have been blasphemous, and they would kill him early, right? I guarantee you it would be that some kind of nonsense. But I was occurring in one of his debates. He says, you can't prove the existence of the resurrection of Jesus. And I'm thinking, of course you can. How dumb are you, buddy? Listen, I'm a defense attorney. We do this all the time. And I happen to have read a little bit about the Bible. I'm not a Bible expert. My Pugnology is great. My catechism and my practice is very down, but my Pugnology is pretty good. And I remember, of course, Acts, and I'm going to read it. I'm going to read. So here's the challenge, and it's in Acts. It's in Acts 5:33. So after they kill Jesus and he comes back, the apostles Peter and the boys are running around, proclaiming the good news. Well, this does not go over well with the Jewish leaders. So what they do is they beat them up, they put them in jail, and they threaten them to tell them, don't do any of that. Stop talking that stuff. And they keep doing it. The apostles keep doing it because, of course, they saw Jesus, right? So anyway, so the Sanhedrin gets together, and they're basically trying again. The apostles Peter and the boys. And one of the Pharisees, named Gamaliel, a teacher of the law, who was honored by all the people, stands up and he points out that Thaddeus appeared claiming to a while back. Theudas appeared claiming to be someone of note. 400 men rallied to him. Then he was killed, and then his people were dispersed. And it all came to nothing. After him, Judas the Galilean appeared in the days of the census, led by a band of people in revolt. He too was killed, and all his followers scattered. Now, a side note, the great historian, my favorite historian of antiquity, the Jewish historian Josephus, points out that this is going on throughout this time period. There are lots of people rising up, being quote Messiah or whatever, and then getting whacked, and then the people dispersing. Now, here's what Gamaliel advises. I advise, leave these men alone. Let them go. For if their purpose is of human origin, I love that, human origin, it will fail. But if it is from God, you will not be able to stop these men. You will find yourself fighting against God, right? I love that. So the challenge is that's what we have to do. So that I'm going to bring that out. Is this? They say we can't scientifically, historically prove the resurrection. Now, that's nonsense. And here's how we're going to do it. As a trial attorney, I went to Temple Law School, the best law school in the entire world. It had Eddie Aldibaum, the guy who redid the evidence, as my professor, gave us trial advocacy. And there's a little vignette we use for trials, in criminal defense trials or prosecution trials, that breaks down like this. There are 3 types of evidence. The first type of evidence is called testimonial, eyewitness, testimonial evidence, eyewitness evidence. The second type of evidence is circumstantial evidence. And the third type of evidence is demonstrative evidence. What do I mean by this? Like I said, for testimonial evidence, it's eyewitness. It's what you see. People's eyewitnesses, though, can vary. And a lot of this nonsense they say in the Bibles don't, jive. Of course they don't jive. If you had 3 different people, at 9/11, we all remember that. And you took their versions of what they saw, they would all be different. They would not be different enough to prove that 9/11 was a hoax, which is a bunch of nonsense because we all saw it. But they would be very greatly varying in detail. But it wouldn't matter. And the same is true with the 4 different gospels. So there's the eyewitness testimony, of course. And then there is what they call circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial evidence, it goes like this. The judge would instruct you, and the judge is going to instruct you in a little bit, is this. Now, you can fall asleep, and while you're asleep, it can snow, and somebody can walk across the snow while you fall asleep, and you wake up in the morning, you can see the snow, and you can see the footsteps. You don't have to see that with your own eyes. to know circumstantially that occurred. That's circumstantial evidence, and it's enough to send people to the chair because it's done it again and again and again. And then there is demonstrative evidence. Demonstrative evidence is the lab coat evidence. I can bring the guy in the little lab coat. He can put his little test tubes here. He can prove and show you the DNA. He can show you the fingerprints. He can play the video for you. That's the demonstrative evidence. So there's three types of evidence, three categories of evidence. Now in this case, and we're going to eventually this series is going to focus on the last part. The demonstrative evidence, the scientific evidence of the resurrection. But what we're going to start with is this. So briefly through the first two categories of testimonial evidence, we now know that John's testimony is eyewitness testimony. Why do we know that? Well, John's gospel, the reason why the gospels are the length they are is because the scroll was 33 feet long. John's gospel came after the first three because they didn't do it justice the last week of Holy Week. And John's gospel, literally one half of it for about, a gospel is about 70 pages long. It's 33 feet on the papyrus rolled up scroll. Half of it is that last week. And we now know that it is a eyewitness account because in it, he points out that when Jesus was stabbed in the side, blood and water came out. Now, for 2,000 years, this has always been, well, it's a miracle because everybody knows that if you got stabbed in the heart, blood would come out, right? And for 2,000 years, these loyal, good Christians have copied that down and going, blood and water? Well, that's what it says. I don't want to go to hell. And they perfectly transcribe it down to us today. Now, there's even a sweet little cult that's come up about it. The beautiful picture of I trust in Jesus in the Fatima. And I think it's not Fatima. That's a different cult. And it's the one with the blood and the water, blood and the light. I can't believe I miffed on the name of this sweet, not cult, but cult-like type of group of people who believe in the miracle of the blood and the water coming from Jesus' heart. But we now have the benefit of scientific evidence. We know two doctors have observed that this is actually a phenomenon. What happens is that just like you get a blister on your hand and you get like a bubble, a blister bubble. In that blister bubble, if you pop it, it looks like water coming out of that. That same it's that same occurrence, that same your body reacts the same way if you're beaten. And so Jesus, of course, was beaten horribly before he was crucified, and so his chest cavity was beaten. And then they've had multiple confirmed incidents where doctors reporting, and I got this from the Crucifix of Jesus. It's a medical doctor examines the death of resurrection of Jesus, and it's Joseph W. Bergenson, who's a doctor, and they've had now recorded incidents of this same occurrence where your chest cavity fills with a water-like substance, so that when Jesus was stabbed, a water-like substance would come out that looks like water and blood, and John dutifully reports it as that. So we now know that John's gospel is an eyewitness account of the events, and you can trust it for that. Now, for circumstantial evidence, that would be the argument that, listen, when they found the tomb, there was nobody in it. Well, he was alive in one version, because obviously when Mary Magdalene saw him, he was alive, but then he left. right? So some of the apostles saw an empty tomb, right? But so now, how did that happen? Well, circumstances, just like the snow and the walking, which would show that, hey, Roman guards, if they fell asleep, got killed. All right, it was under Roman guard. Sunday, it was rolled back. Roman guard was gone, and and Jesus was gone. So circumstantial evidence would say that he arose. But it's really the third category, the demonstrative evidence, the scientific history evidence that I really like to get into. Where this is just part one. This was just a comeuppance. A brief laying out of the initial part of the argument, because what I hope to do over the next a series of this is do the scientific evidence of showing of connecting the dots, of showing how, as we've talked throughout our through our 20 years of doing this, of how the words of Jesus and the life of Jesus translates into what we see today, right? And if we can connect the dots of what we can see in our society, in our American society today, and if we can connect the dots, we show that this is not a folly of man, or it is not of the origin of man, as it said in Acts, but it is only from God that this could happen. And so this would be scientific proof. Now, it's not unknown in the law, of course. Supreme Court Justice Brandeis had pointed out, I think it's the ICE, I'm butchering the case, but it was a early 1900 case with ICE where he was explaining federalism, the American federalism system versus the states. And he says, well, the states are really laboratories. They use this term. The states are laboratories. And so we're going to use that approach that, just like the states are different laboratories about something that works, we have, if anywhere from 200 to 1 million different societies, and only a few of them have developed this thing we call Western progress and science. And if we can connect the dots from Jesus's words up through these two societies that do work, then we can use that scientific proof of the laboratories to do demonstrative evidence that the resurrection occurred. So I think next week we're going to start on the freedom gospel, and then after that we'll see how far we go. But that would be the demonstrative evidence. So again, we don't like to apologize. We shouldn't be apologizing. It shouldn't be apologetics. The only thing we should apologizing, God doesn't have to apologize. The last thing in the world is that God has to apologize to us. It's the other way around. Every night I have to apologize, and we all should be taking our knees and apologizing for all the nonsense we did during the day. And me and you can apologize, and this is what we're going to end on, specifically for this show today and in the past. No more apologetics. It's Pugnology. Okay? Pugnology.
All right. And on that note, then, it's all good.
Because God loves you.
Because God loves you. Now, before we go out, I thought it might be nice to go out with a little bit of Pug.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And on that note, everybody, have a great night. Make sure you like and share our channel, our show, and tell your friends about us. Make it word of mouth. Make it anything you can. Remember, we're the little dog and kicking the ass of the big dog.
Yes. Pugnology.
All right. God bless.
Fight and you may die. Run, you'll live. At least a while. And dying in your bed, many years from now. Would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance to come back and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom.